Mr. Starks, you want to make a comment?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it, Congressman. The chairman did reference that he asked me he did in fact ask me to take on the geolocation investigation. It was right after I was sworn in, and so I did appreciate his gesture on reaching out to me on that. I asked for a briefing from the Enforcement Bureau. The case had already been open for about 8 months. What I heard at that briefing did not give me confidence that that case was moving along quickly enough, and so I did inform the chairman that I was not going to take on that matter. And so the matter still stands that on the geolocation tracking, it is of critical safety that that case be brought to a resolution immediately. People are out there, and you can track their phone immediately. And I cannot emphasize enough how important that is.
And if I might ask, Mr. Starks, and I'm just trying to get information, but that enforcement proceeding, the FCC may collect data, but doesn't the FCC have to rely on the Department of Justice to go after the bad actors?
No, we have, sir, we have Section 222 authority.
So you can go after the bad actors?
To go after geolocation, yes. I believe we can
on geolocation?
The carriers, yes, sir.
Okay. Chairman Pye, is there any information that Mr. Starks would like to have that he's not able to get? If he wanted it, he could have it? Is that what I heard you saying?
I'm not aware. I'd be happy to talk with him about that. But what I will say in response to your question, I think you were going after the robocall enforcement, and there is a gap under current law. To the extent that the FCC imposes a fine through a forfeiture order and the robocaller refuses to pay, only the Department of Justice has independent litigating authority to actually collect that fine. And we've sent these matters, referred them to the Department of Justice for collection, but we don't have the ability to litigate affirmatively to collect those fines.
All right. And the reason I wanted to clear this up is that, like my colleague on the other side of the aisle, I don't want to see anybody being left in the dark who's authorized to have the information, who should have that information. And so on the location issue, and I'm not a regular member of this committee, so forgive me for stumbling through some of the terms. I waved on because this is important to my district. All these issues are. Everybody can get the information who seeks it out, and what can we do to, because people are concerned about that, what can we do if the information wasn't there that he wanted or he didn't feel like it was going the right direction? What can we do to speed that along?
Again, I can't comment on the law enforcement as such, but I can say our Enforcement Bureau staff regularly briefs commissioners on a variety of issues, including this one.
Just let them know that both sides of the aisle are concerned about that issue, and that if there's something we need to be doing on the congressional side to make this available or make resources available so that you can move faster, we would, I'm sure, be happy to do that. All right, along those same kinds of lines, let me say that the mapping issues are huge in my area. I like the suggestion earlier of having the Postal Service contracted, because they've got people going to every nook and cranny of the country. But I mean, I represent the southwestern portion of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, and I have Virginia Tech in my district. And I have people all around Virginia Tech within a few miles of Virginia Tech who don't have service. One lady comes to mind as a friend of mine, has a house in between Virginia Tech and Interstate 81, doesn't have service. And I doubt that's on anybody's maps that there are these big holes. But because it's although they're not as big as my friend from Montana's mountains, we have lots of mountains, and they block signals and all sorts of things. So my folks don't care whether it's mid-band or white space. They just want to make sure we're getting service, because we do have that homework gap that one of the other commissioners referenced, and it's all over the place in my district, and we're doing everything we can. The universal service fee helps in some areas, but we'd like to see that expanded. Now, that being said, I've always been interested in the experiments that were being done on the white spaces, and while not as technologically advanced and able to talk about it as some of my colleagues, can you explain to the folks back home what that is and where we stand on that experiment, and how soon can we expect that to get out? Because if I understand it even halfway correctly, every part of my district's got some white space.
A great question, Congressman, and I thank you for it. I've seen the promise of it in places like South Boston, where I saw one of the white spaces experiments, and
which is about an hour east of me. But that, I mean,
a little more urban than your
surprised how big
district,
Virginia is.
Exactly. So in a nutshell, white spaces involves the prospect of using what used to be spectrum used by TV broadcasters to deliver wireless broadband. And there have been a lot of tricky technical policy issues that we've been working through. Recently, the FCC adopted an order resolving some of the outstanding petitions for reconsideration on how the database would work, et cetera. We're now looking to a petition that is going to be submitted, we understand, from Microsoft, if it hasn't been submitted already, to figure out a way to resolve some of the remaining issues, get through those technical hurdles. And I want to commend both Microsoft and the National Association of Broadcasters for working together on some of those to reach a consensus. And to the extent there is a consensus that allows us to move forward, we would like to be able to do so. I can't give you a specific timeline because these are complicated technical issues, but what I will say is we understand the promise of this technology, and we are looking forward to working with you and others in your district to bring it to reality.
I can tell you that folks are frustrated. It does make a difference on our educational opportunities. And in my district in particular, which is depopulating, we need to be able to keep some of our young people at home and some of our young minds at home. And if they can't start a business in their hometown because they don't have adequate service, then they're moving out of the district completely. And when we're trying to revitalize the coalfield section of my district economically, this is an absolute imperative. So I appreciate it, and just do whatever you can to speed it up. And if we need to do something, please let us know, because both sides of the aisle are willing to help on this. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.